It's good morning, Vesna Main. Thank you for joining us here at Yellow Shelf.
Hello, good morning. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
Yeah, Vesna, you're joining me. You're from the UK. I'm here in Australia. Excited to talk to you about your latest newish book, Waiting for the Party. Congratulations. What does the Yellow Shelf audience need to know about the book?
Well, it's a novel, and the main character is a woman who is 92, and she wakes up one Sunday morning, and she remembers another Sunday 30 years earlier, a Sunday um, when her life changed. Something happened the night before, and her life changed. She was 62, obviously, at the time. And I won't say any more about what happens, but I would say that it is a book about all the people, about all the women in particular, and their development. When I started writing it, I mean, with all of my books, I mean, both novels and short stories, I don't have a particular message in mind, anything I want to say. Um, Things just happen. Something triggers it, whether it's an image, a sound. In this case, it was a letter, actually, a letter by a woman in her 90s in a national paper here who wrote that she was very distressed because her lover of 20 years, who was a man in his 80s, late 80s at the time, had told her that he had found someone else. And interestingly enough, it wasn't the fact that he left her that distressed her, but her response. She felt that at 90 plus, she should be able to cope with it. Not only that, but that she shouldn't need physical affection. And so that kind of physical intimacy that we don't associate with older people. And then readers wrote in saying, of course, everyone needs affection, everyone needs physical intimacy.
Yeah.
And I think gradually this attitudes towards old people, towards seeing old age, not just as the time of decline, both physical and mental, gradually they're changing. I didn't know any of this. To me, what happened? I read that letter and suddenly, she stayed with me. I kept thinking about her. And
Yeah.
then the story gradually emerged and I wrote it down. And I wrote it, I mean, I don't write traditional stuff. I feel that the style should match the story, should match our time. Each of my novels is very different in style. And so what happened here, I wrote it as a conventional novel, lots of things happening in her life chronologically and so on. And I didn't like it. I never write stuff like
Mm.
that. To me, it belongs to kind of positivism, 19th century, the time of certainties and so on. And then one day when I was swimming, I swim a lot. I swim every day while I'm in London. And while you're swimming, you're doing a kind of mechanical thing going up and down the pool. And suddenly, I always get ideas there. And suddenly this emerged. I saw her lying in bed Sunday morning, and remembering that event and how it changed her life. And since then, I have started looking at other, just to see who else has written about
Yeah.
older people, particularly older women and sexuality. And there is hardly anything. There are a few novels, but there is nothing, they're kind of dreaming about,
Mm.
or they are kind of entertaining ideas about somebody being with somebody.
Mm.
And usually in their 60s, not a woman in her 90s.
Yeah.
And then I've realized the same with films. In fact, I could mention an Australian film called Innocence by Paul Cox,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
that's one of the rare films where older people are presented as having sex. The camera actually goes to the bedroom. And there have been a few others. There is a German film, Cloud Nine, and there is an English one with Charlotte Rampling, 45 years and so on. But most films are kind of older people don't have sex.
Yeah.
And actually, research shows just the opposite. And then recently, I came across Helen Mirren saying how she is about to be 80, how she's actually not growing old. She's just growing up.
Yeah.
And it's a time of development, it's a time
Mm.
of knowing yourself. And it's amazing. My character, who's called Claire Meadows, who's a retired piano teacher, widowed. By the time when she was 62, she was widowed for 10 years. She used to be married to a much older man who more or less treated her like a child and so on. And by that time, um, she, she's like a child. She hasn't grown up. She's 62. But
Mm.
she was treated in this marriage like a child. And suddenly she learns things about herself. She knows who she is. So it's a time, if you are lucky enough to remain reasonably healthy, and she also exercises still, looks after herself. She has reasonably comfortable life. And therefore, it's a time of development. It's a time of learning. Um, and interestingly enough, one of my neighbors, who no longer lives here because she's in a sort of one of those accommodations where she has a little flat with some care, but she's 95. She's completely okay. She's just taken up painting and
Wow.
yoga, and so it is possible. I mean, you need to be lucky as
Of course.
well, and to look after yourself.
Yeah.
But if you are, it's not something to fear. It's
Yeah.
the time of your life. The children have grown.
Yeah.
If you have had children, they've grown. You are not working for money.
Yes.
You can do what you like, what you enjoy, and it can be the best time of your life. And that's what my novel is about.
Yeah.
But none of that did I realize while I was writing it. Only later. And that's how I write. I just want
Yeah.
to tell a story in a particular way. And then things just emerge. I
And
don't plan.
yeah. Vesna, as the reader, I know um I felt a shift in the way I felt about growing older, and it was quite an inspiring book. So I'm glad you gave us, you know, those trigger points of what inspired you. I'm not going to give too much away other than to say this is a really great read. This is a book about ageism, isn't it? It's a book about
Mm.
love, friendship, marriage, but it's clearly a book about sexuality. And yeah, I've never read a book like it. Um, but that's the nice thing about reading, isn't it? You stumble across these books and then you read and you get inspired, and that's exactly what your book's done. And it's great to be able to talk to you about it, Vesna.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
As my protagonist says at one point, all the women are not written about, they're written off.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's interesting because if you, I mean, I don't really read women's magazines, but I've come across things where they say once you hit 40, 40, that's nothing. Once you hit 40, you got to start thinking you got to do this with your face, you got to wear this and that. 40.
Yeah.
I'm talking 92.
Yeah.
And she's still planning, as you know, she's still planning trips. She's waiting to go to a party,
Yeah.
and
She's
she's done
living.
things.
She's living, and she's yeah.
She's living.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Vesna, how do we, if we're watching anywhere in the world, if we're curious about this book, point us in the direction of where we can go to get it, or if we can follow you, like how do we connect with you and the book?
Well, I mean, there is social media, or I'm happy to be contacted. I haven't got a website at the moment. There's been some problems, but I do have a page on the Society of Authors
Yes.
British Society of Authors, on their website. I've got a page with contact details. I am on Twitter as Vesna Main, on
Yeah.
Bluesky, Facebook even. And where do you, I mean, I don't know how you get a book in Australia, whether it's Amazon or whether there are other ways. With
I
Brexit,
got it on
things have
Amazon.
become,
I got it on Amazon.
yeah,
So there are what
so
I'll
it
do,
is.
Vesna, I'll put some links in these show notes that go
Thank you.
just to connect with you and the webpage around the Society of Authors. And also, yeah,
Yeah.
even your Twitter feed. So people who are curious, because you've written other books, Vesna, and you definitely
Oh,
write.
yes.
Yeah. So I'm only one book in, but that certainly inspired some curiosity. And I'd, in the future, love to talk to you about more if we can. So, Vesna, thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been brilliant. I really enjoyed
I
meeting
hope
you
we've
and talking to
inspired,
you.
I really hope we've inspired some humans to go out and have a look, check out this book because Waiting for the Party really was a really curious read for me. I know that the visual on the front is amazing. So yeah, if you see it in a book,
Yes, I was pleased with it straight away when the publisher sent me and they said, "Do you like it?" I said, "I don't like it. I love it."
yeah, I couldn't stop looking at her face. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
love it.
Well, Joanna, thank you very, very much to you and to Yellow Shelf and your listeners and spectators. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
look, we
very
will.
much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Vesna, we will talk again. I know you spend certain times of the year in the UK and then in other parts of the world, but I'm sure I can track you down in the future to chat.
Absolutely. Would love to. Yeah.
Cheers. Take
Thank you
care.
very much.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Bye.